Hi there, folks. Andrew here at Chatfuel. Today we're going to be talking about the super exciting, I say that with only a hint of sarcasm, Facebook policy changes coming soon that are effective March 4th, 2020. Now, I know this will be the most boring video that you watch of the week, maybe the year, maybe even your whole lifetime, but all these changes, despite how boring they might be, are super important and vital to the success of your chatbot, whether you are building your own or if you are building them for a client. Now, the good news in all of this is that the goal is to enhance the experience of Messenger, improve the quality of it, but also, especially for agencies, this news is actually exciting because think about it. You're an agency, your clients are paying you to be the master, the expert at building bots. And so by you mastering and becoming a specialist in these policies, you have a competitive advantage over other agencies who might not have all of that insight. And as a result, you can charge a premium telling your client, hey, I'm going to ensure that your bot is not getting banned on Messenger, which is huge, right? If they lose their chatbot, if they lose their page's messaging privileges, that can be a big hit in terms of revenue and just customer experience. So keep that in mind, even though these changes are kind of annoying and we have to adapt. As humans, we like maintaining the status quo and not adapting. There is a silver lining in it all. So the big question, I just alluded to this, but why is Facebook making these changes? At the end of the day, Facebook wants to improve the experience of its users on Messenger. In other words, Facebook doesn't want tons of spammy and irrelevant messages being sent to subscribers of these chatbots. So the key word here is engagement. As you can see, Beyonce is a perfect example here, pointing to her ring finger. Essentially, again, Facebook wants to keep users engaged on the platform. They want businesses to respond quicker to customers, hence the 24-hour rule that we'll be talking about. And more importantly, they want customers receiving relevant content. An example of relevant content being this bird on the TV, the cat watching it. Fun fact, I've done this before with my own cat. It's hilarious to watch, so if you have a cat or two, highly recommend it. Anyway, let's get into the details here. This is the TLDR, the too long didn't read version of the policy changes that are coming down the pipeline. There's a lot of simplification to this timeline, but I think it's very easy to get lost in all the somewhat confusing details of these policy changes. So I thought this graphic would, at a high level, help explain what's going on here, and then we'll add some more details and nuance in a little bit. So basically, within 24 hours of a user interacting with your chatbot, you have a 24-hour window to engage with them. And in this window, you can send them whatever content you want. It can be promotional in nature or non-promotional content. All you have to do to send this is use, when you send a broadcast or a sequence, the standard messaging tag. Again, this is totally free. Within 24 hours of a user interacting or engaging with your chatbot, you can send them whatever content you want, just use the standard messaging tag. And I'll explain more on that in a minute in a couple slides. Outside of that 24-hour window is where it gets trickier because, again, Facebook wants businesses to respond quickly to messages, and if somebody hasn't recently interacted with the bot, they don't want you just spamming them out of the blue. So outside of that 24-hour window, you can still send messages, but there are some different stipulations. The best way to do this by far is to run sponsored messages. These are paid ways or a paid way to re-engage with your audience. And you can use this as well as the other things I've mentioned here, like live chat and the one-time notification, to send promotional or non-promotional content. And there are two other ways to re-engage users outside of this 24-hour time frame, but they're kind of corner cases. I will detail them in just a couple slides here. But again, this is the high level view, what I think will be most valuable to the majority of our customers. So that's in essence how this works. Within the 24-hour window, use standard messaging. Outside of that, if you want to re-engage users, use sponsored messages, which are paid. Use live chat, which has some different stipulations that I'll talk about in a second, or use the one-time notification to send either promotional or non-promotional content. Okay, so before we dive into all these specific tags and the very specifics of the changes, I want to give another high-level overview of the three main changes Facebook is making in this policy update iteration. The first of which is the +1 message. This is going away. Previously, this was a way that allowed bot builders to send a message outside of the 24-hour window that was promotional and that was free to send. You could do this once per subscriber, and it was, again, a free promotional message that you could send outside of that 24-hour window, and this is going away. You could argue that the one-time notification is kind of a replacement for that, but more on that in a minute. Next is the subscription tag. So this was previously a way for anyone with a bot to send a free non-promotional message outside of that 24-hour window, but now Facebook is kind of narrowing the focus here, and only registered news organizations who are part of what Facebook calls its news page index program will be eligible to use this subscription tag to send out things like news articles. So even if their subscribers haven't recently engaged with the bot, they can still send out these free non-promotional pieces of content. And finally, the third main change here with the new policy is this whittling down, this consolidation of 17 message tags to now 4. And message tags were just a way to send messages outside of the 24-hour window, different classifications for doing that. So now it's simplified into just 4, which we'll talk about in the coming slides. So those are the main changes at a very high level. We need to just briefly define the two categories of subscribers that you have, because based on when a user has interacted, as you've previously seen, it depends on what eligible ways you can reach them. So this part's really simple. We're going to use Walter White as an example here, and also Jesse Pinkman, Breaking Bad, one of the greatest shows of all time, in my opinion. Anyway, with Walt here on the left, let's say he has interacted with the bot in the last 24 hours, so he's recently engaged, to put it simply. And then on the right here, we have Jesse, who hasn't interacted within the last 24 hours. Maybe he hasn't interacted for a year. So based on how recently these users have engaged, it again depends on the methods that we can use to re-engage them, send them content. First, let's start with the active in the last 24 hours category, which would be Walter White again. So if you want to send messages to people who have recently engaged, there's two ways to do this, whether you're using broadcasting, meaning the re-engage tab, or a sequence. So in the broadcast tab, the overarching way to do this, by the way, is just using the standard messaging tag that I mentioned before. So if you're doing this through the re-engage tab, you just apply that standard messaging tag. And then also in the attribute filter box there, you want to filter using the attribute within 24-hour window is set to yes. So this just ensures that, again, the message that you're sending is only sending to people who have recently engaged in the last 24 hours, and they can receive either promotional or non-promotional content. The same is true with sequences. Again, you apply that standard messaging tag. It just looks a little bit different because instead of a filter like we have in the re-engage tab, in sequences, we have to use the redirect to block. And so in that case, we would set it to the within 24-hour window is no, and then redirect them to an empty block. The simplified version here, the TLDR, is use the standard messaging tag to send either promotional or non-promotional content within that 24-hour window. An example of using this would be sending a coupon code. So say somebody is browsing your bot and you want to send them a coupon within 24 hours, you could do that using either of these methods, and it would be appropriate with Facebook's policies. Next is the not active in the last 24 hours category, where things get trickier. Again, this would be the Jesse Pinkman example of somebody who, let's say, maybe hasn't interacted with your bot in a year, for example. Now here, I'm going to go into a lot of details, but keep in mind, I've ranked the importance of these different methods for re-engaging users from top to bottom in terms of importance. So the bottom two, I would argue, aren't really that important. They won't be used by that many people. They're very narrow use cases. So keep that in mind. Even though I'm going to go over a lot, you really just need to focus on the top three, if that. So the first one here, which is absolutely mission critical, is sponsored messages. This allows you to send a message to people who haven't engaged in your bot recently through Facebook ads. This is, again, paid acquisition, if you will, or paid re-engagement. So you can re-engage those users and send whatever type of content you want. It can be either promotional or non-promotional in nature. Second is live chat. Now, you can also send through live chat promotional or non-promotional content, and this is a free avenue to re-engage users, but there is one main stipulation here, which is that if a user has messaged you through live chat, you have only 7 days to respond to that inquiry. And in terms of the promotional versus non-promotional, technically you can send both, but with live chat, you are only allowed to send promotional content if it's directly related to the user's inquiry. So for example, if a user messages you a question, let's say they're asking, what discounts do you have available? Then it would be appropriate and compliant within the policies to send a message with a coupon code. However, if they're asking a question about their shipment and where its current location is, it wouldn't be appropriate to send that coupon code because it's not directly related to the user's inquiry, which was non-promotional in nature. Next, we have the one-time notification. This is currently in beta by Facebook, and it's not something that we support at the moment, but we will begin supporting it in early April, so shortly after these policies go into effect. With the one-time notification, you can send either promotional or non-promotional content. Again, you could kind of see this as a replacement to the +1 message that previously existed. Essentially, this is a mechanism that allows the user to specifically opt in to receive a particular type of message, and then they can receive it at any time. So an example of this to make it a little bit more tangible is, let's say the user is looking at your clothes e-commerce spot that sells, shirts, shoes, pants. They see an item that they like, but it's not available. They can click to opt into this one-time notification so that when it's back in stock, they get that notification. And that's an example of using the one-time notification in action. Again, we'll start supporting this in early April of this year. Okay, the fourth of 5 different ways to re-engage users who fall outside of that 24-hour window is with message tags. These are 3 or arguably 4 different tags that you can use for very specific use case messages that you're sending out. The 3 specific ones here where you can send non-promotional content are at the bottom of the screen: confirmed event update, post-purchase update, and account update. The 4th is called Human Agent. That actually falls within live chat, so you don't have to worry about that. It's automatically applied, but that is where the 4th message tag comes into play in live chat. But the 3 here where you can explicitly send non-promotional content are listed below. I'll show more of that in the second slide. Examples of using these tags include appointment reminders, confirmation of an order, such as when somebody places an order and you send them a receipt, or job application updates, among others. So here is what all of those 3 message tags look like in more detail. I'm not going to go over this because it's a lot of information. So either take a screenshot, pull out your phone, take a picture. You can reference this for later use. It's also available on Facebook's policy website. But these are those 3 tags that you can use. Again, all for non-promotional use cases, but they may be helpful in some cases. And then the final way to re-engage people outside of the 24-hour window is through subscription messaging. As I mentioned earlier, this is another very narrow use case that only applies to news outlets who are registered with Facebook's news page index program. Again, exclusively non-promotional content. And that's part of the reason why I've kind of ranked these in importance from top to bottom, because if you're running an e-commerce store, for example, sending non-promotional content isn't necessarily going to be that useful. And so the top 3 are really the most valuable in my eyes. There is one more question here, which is, how do I reach all of my subscribers, right? Because as a business owner or as an agency, you're probably like, okay, well, it's great to have this 24-hour window and outside of the 24-hour window, but that's kind of an artificial, arbitrary way to divide my subscribers, right? Like, what if I just want to reach everybody? And that's an excellent question. There is a way to do this. It's not free. It does involve sponsored messages, but it is possible, which is great news. So the best way to do this, in my mind, is combining standard messaging and sponsored messages. So as I mentioned earlier, you can use standard messaging tag to engage with anybody who has interacted with your bot in the past 24 hours. So you can start by doing that. Filter out and say, hey, the small number of users who have recently interacted, I'm going to message them first. And then you can combine that again with sponsored messages. So then after you send out that message, you can go into the people tab, apply this filter using the within 24-hour window attribute again, and set it to no. So this will filter out only people who have not recently engaged with the bot. So basically everybody that you didn't send the standard message to. You can export that list of users as a custom audience, upload that to Facebook Ads Manager so you can send the sponsored message. And then again, you've effectively reached all your subscribers, those within and outside of the 24-hour window. You might be asking too, well, Andrew, this sounds great, but it's also very cumbersome. Don't worry, at the moment I agree, it isn't the most efficient process, but we do have plans to improve this, and it's something that's coming very soon down the pipeline to automatically sync segments that you create here in the People tab with Facebook ads so you can easily create sponsored messages and reach all of your subscribers. Finally here, let's discuss some of the action steps that you should take going forward. Obviously, a lot of this is very technical and very detail-oriented, and you might be so overwhelmed that you're like, Andrew, I just don't know what to do next. And so fear not, I've laid out 3 action steps here that will help you move forward and adapt to these policy changes. So the first here is to audit your bot. Look at all the broadcasts and sequences that you're currently sending out. Make sure that all of those messages are set to send within 24 hours of the user interacting. And make sure for those messages that are within that 24-hour window to apply, again, standard messaging tag and apply that within 24-hour window attribute so that you're only sending messages to people within that time frame and you're complying with Facebook policies. Now, for any messages that are currently sending outside of that 24-hour window, let's say you have a sequence that after 7 days sends a coupon code, then for those types of messages, I would first back up your bot, clone your bot before you make any changes so you have a backup if anything goes wrong. So first do that, but after that, look at those messages outside of the 24-hour window and either delete them, change the timing on them, or convert them into sponsored messages. Because that's, again, a way to reach those people outside of the 24-hour window. Super easy to do. You have to pay for it, but it's, in my mind, the most efficient and intuitive way to reach those audiences. The second action step tip here is to apply for the news page index, Facebook's NPI program. Only do this, though, if you are, again, a certified news agency, a news organization like ABC, CBS, CNN, etc. Only if you're planning on sending free, non-promotional content like news stories outside of the 24-hour window. This will give you access to that subscription messaging tag that will enable you to do that. And then finally here, add more touch points in your chatbot. What do I mean by this? Well, take advantage of our Save User Phone and Save User Email plugins. These allow you to capture in a very frictionless and simple way other contact information, other contact data of the subscriber, such as their phone number and their email, obviously. By doing this, you can improve or enhance your omni-channel marketing efforts. So instead of focusing just on Messenger, why not expand and enhance your marketing funnel by adding SMS messaging, email marketing as well? So all of these action steps will help you better prepare for Facebook's upcoming policy changes. Again, I know this is a lot of information all at once, so that's why I'm recording this. You can go back, refer to anything you need to, but to stress again, I would say the biggest point here is that timeline, the simplified timeline I showed at the beginning of this video. Essentially, understand that if you want to reach users who have recently interacted, use the standard messaging tag and filter that to include just people within the 24-hour window. And if you want to reach people outside of that time frame, I would personally just use sponsored messages, but also you can use live chat and the one-time notification once we make it available in April, and also those 2 other eligible ways to reach users outside of the window, but those are very limited in my mind and probably won't be super useful except for some e-commerce use cases. So all of that being said, thank you for your patience. Hopefully you haven't fallen asleep yet, but I again want to stress that all of this information is super, super valuable and critical to your success for building messenger chatbots. So even though it's not the most exciting video, hopefully this is of value to you. And again, I encourage you to see the silver lining in all of this. This is a great way for agencies to step up their game, charge a premium for their services, and it's a way for all of us to better enhance the messenger ecosystem so that people want to spend time here and want to engage with our bots rather than running the other way. If you have any questions, please reach out to us, team@chatfuel.com. Our dedicated support team can answer any questions you might have about these policies and how they specifically apply to your bots going forward. So thanks so much for watching. Happy botting and good luck with these changes.